I had this job at the advertising agency, and just as I was kind of getting ready to cut my agent loose and just sort of put that part of me aside, The Daily Show had a pretty low success rate at getting female correspondents on the show.
I think 0.
No, it wasn't 0, but it wasn't like they didn't have lasting. There was a woman. There had been a few, but I think that she was getting ready to leave or something was happening and they were really specifically looking for a woman at the show, which I did not know at the time. But in their search for a woman, they came to Canada. They came to Toronto. They had heard all of these wonderful things about Second City. You know, it's in the pantheon of comedy history.
Greats, yeah.
So they came to Toronto. An agent had lured them to Toronto because he wanted them to look at his clients very specifically. And he didn't have that many female clients. He had maybe 3 or 4, just a handful, and he wanted to make it like a more filled out day for them because obviously his clients were going to get the job. But he didn't want it to seem like there were only 3 women in all of Toronto, so he got my agent at the time to kind of like round out the days so there were more people on the roster. And she called me and she was like, I don't know, there's an audition. It's on Saturday. It's for something called The John Daly Show with Stewart or something. I don't know it. And I knew it. Daily Show was my favorite show. Like it was my favorite show. It was Jason's favorite show. We loved it. We watched it every night for years. The moment that it came on the Comedy Network in Canada, it was appointment viewing for us, and it had been for years. So I knew immediately what it was. I got really excited. I thought, this is perfect. This will be, I was like, this is it. This is my swan song. This is how I end. I'm like, I'll do this final audition and I'll do it so well. I'll be like, I will put everything into this audition. And when I don't get the job, I will know that I gave it my all. And then I can walk away. And so I did. I honestly went into and it was their audition process for The Daily Show was ridiculous. It just was bore no resemblance to the actual job. It actually was the easiest audition process. It was really bad.
What did you have to do?
Bad. They just had you, all I got, I was like, God, what is this? So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it my all. This will be it. This is a great way to go out. I'm going to go out with a bang. I'm going to be like, I tried everything to make this career work. Could not do it. No problem. I'm going to go out with my head held high. I'll fire my agent. We're done. Super. I had such a positive attitude about it, actually. Because in Toronto, American shows would come in from time to time and see people, but no one ever really got hired. It was like, that's a really big pipe dream because just there's a lot of extra paperwork and we usually don't want to go through that. It was very, very, very rare. So I was like, what will this audition be? Like the type of work that you would see the correspondents do was so much out in the field and like interacting with people. I was like, I cannot imagine what this will be. And in the end, it was just 2 scripts that Stephen had done. They just sent the script of something that I had seen. Like one was a Carell piece and one was a Stephen Colbert thing. Yeah. And both segments I had seen in recent weeks. One was about the SARS epidemic and one was about something else, and I can't think of it right now, but I was pretty familiar with it. I got the 2 scripts. I was like, what do I have to do? And they were like, you just read them. You're just going to read them to the producers. And I was like, oh my God, okay. That's easy.
Well, but was it? Because did you do it in their tone or your own tone?
I did it in their tone because I knew it. I mean, I really knew it. Mm-hmm. I truly, truly knew it. So they came to Toronto. They set up shop on a Saturday in some little space. I showed up. I immediately knew that I was the only person in the room who knew the show because all the other women showed up in costume. I mean, I could tell. Like, I absolutely know the tone of this show. None of you watch the show, and you're not gonna get this job. Like, I'm not gonna get the job either, but at least I know the tone of the show, and I knew enough to wear a blazer. So, I read the scripts. I did my best impression of Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell, because what else could I do? I just was like I just did it as seriously as I possibly could. Like, I cared about the material. And I heard nothing. I was like, that was great. I walked out. I was so proud. I was like, I wasn't even nervous. This was wonderful. And then 5 weeks later, I got a call for a callback. And then I had to come to New York. And that was mind-blowing in itself. Of course, I was dying. I had not spent a lot of time in New York. I had been only once before. And they wanted to fly me in the morning of and have me do it and then fly out the same day. And I was like, I think that's a bad idea for me. So I'm going to fly me in. I'm going to put myself up at a hotel. I'm going to stay the night. I'm going to go and see a taping. So for me as a performer, I like to see the space that I'm performing in. It just helps me. I don't love to walk out on a stage and be like, oh, I thought it was going to be 5 feet deep and it's 25 feet. I like to just know the dimensions of the place. So I asked if I could go and just see the taping of the show the night before. And I went, I flew in, I put myself up at a very grody hotel. I went to see the taping of the show. John Malkovich was the guest. I died of happiness. The whole thing was just like, it was astonishing. I came back the next morning. I was very prepared. I did the same pieces that they had me read, but I just did them in the studio with John. And I did a good job. I just did a good job because I guess I just wasn't nervous. I mean, I was nervous, but I was able to pretend that I wasn't nervous.
Low stakes, like you said. It was
pretty low. I mean, the highest possible stakes, but I was treating them like they were low stakes for my own personal comfort. I think a lot of the audition process that they would, I think a lot of the audition process was like, can you handle being in the same room as John without freaking out?
And that's another question. I mean, could you?
Yeah, for sure.
What were your first impressions of him?
He was lovely. Yeah, he was lovely. He was like extremely low key. I mean, I can put it all, I put the whole puzzle together after the fact. You know what I mean? Like at first when I met him, I was like, oh, he was dressed very casually, and he was like avuncular, totally friendly. We did it. It went by really fast. I don't know anything about it. I don't remember it at all. But then I walked out. You saw a lot of people that day. I walked out and everyone forgot that I was there, kind of. Like, they forgot to take my mic off, and I was like, oh, I'm just alone in the building. Like, they kind of had moved on to the next person without really dismantling me or sending me back out into the world. So I still had the mic pack on, and I was like, oh, where do I go? And then I went out into a stairwell. I just started wandering. So I was really shell-shocked. I took my stuff off, and as I got a little bit lost in the building, because it was kind of a labyrinth, I saw that there were closed-circuit televisions everywhere, and they were actually playing the auditions for everybody in the building. And I was like, thank God I didn't know that. Thank you. I did not know that. And I went out into the street by myself, and I went back to the airport, and I went home. I had my suitcase. And then they hired me. I think maybe a week later I got the call. I was at my advertising agency job, and my agent called me, and she was as stunned as I was. She was like, she was like, sit down. And I was like, what's happening? And then she told me, I literally quit my job that moment. I walked into my boss's office, and I was like, hey, Patrick, I quit my job now. I quit. Sorry. And he took me out for a martini. He was so nice. He was so happy for me. And we went to the Hyatt Hotel, to the rooftop, and he bought me a martini. And I was stunned. And then a couple of weeks after that, I started, then we started doing paperwork, and that took a really long time. And then we got an apartment. We had to come to New York. We had to get an apartment. It all happened really quickly after that. We had a house. Jason and I, we are pragmatic. We were both like, I was like, I'm going to get fired. And he was like, it's possible. It's probable. So we're not going to sell our house. Like, we'll get an apartment. We're going to see how this goes. Like, let's just keep it going, keep our financial plan going. You go there. I'm going to stay here. He was working. He had a job on a show. He was working a lot. And so it was like, go there. We'll get we'll get a studio apartment, just live there for 6 months, and then we'll reassess. So we moved me down on July 4th, 2003. He went back, and he stayed for like a week or something, and then he went back, and we just commuted. We just commuted for 6 or 8 months, and then he moved down maybe in January or something like that. And we made a go of it, and they never did fire me. They did not fire me, and then I worked there for 12, and then he started working there, which was incredible.